Have you ever wondered why teenagers are often willfully depressed? I mean, if you look at many teenagers, you ask them how they're doing, they're bored. What's going on? Nothing. Is there anything interesting? No. Do you want to talk about anything? No. How's your life? Boring, dull, right? So you can even find teenagers that, you invite them to get a box of candy or something that, as a child they'd get all excited about, and they start to get excited, and then they suppress their excitement and remember to pretend that they don't care. I don't care is... So what we're talking about is a group of people that are going out of their way to be more depressed than they were as children. They're actually making an effort to appear more depressed, less interested, less caring, more depressed. So what are they up to? Why are teenagers doing that? And I'd like to look at that through the lens of agency and certainty. So the first thing to understand is that teenagers are going through puberty, and so their identity, their pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being is far more fluid. Now, every human being needs a certain amount of certainty and a certain amount of variety. Teenagers are having variety and uncertainty thrust upon them by their bodies. And so their compensating reaction is to aim for more certainty in the areas they can control. Now, how do you get more certainty around your state when you're in a dependent relationship? Teenagers are dependent on their parents, they're dependent on their teachers, they're dependent for money. There's all kinds of dependencies. And so how do you get certainty? Because as a kid, as a 5-year-old, 1 minute the 5-year-old is laughing, the next minute the 5-year-old is crying, the next minute the 5-year-old is, I'm going to go tell mom, and oh, it's all fine again. A 5-year-old is often in a very volatile identity, from extreme exuberance to rage to having a tantrum, back to exuberance. So that you could look at a 5-year-old as a volatile identity, up and down, and they don't care. But going into teenage years, the teenager wants more of a sense of control to compensate for the fact that they feel less in control. Now, how do you get control in a dependent relationship when you don't have a lot of skill as a teenager? And the answer is regulate the highs. In other words, the teenager doesn't want this pattern of volatility, enthusiasm, disappointment, and all that, because it reveals their vulnerability, which they feel too much of already. And they're also in an environment where they realize they're around sociopathic teenagers, such as themselves, who will exploit, who will humiliate that volatility, that lack of control, right? Teenagers can be very cruel. So a teenager doesn't have more control necessarily than a child, but they have the need for more control. So here's what they do. So you can look at this childlike pattern of exuberance and exhaustion and happiness and tears. It's very volatile. The teenager doesn't want that volatility. And so what the teenager does is caps the top, right? So rather than going up and down, the teenager forces themselves to stay down, to stay in a stable, depressed identity. Because you might think, well, why don't they want a stable up identity, right? And it's because they can't. And they can't for two reasons. The first reason is that in a dependent relationship, a parent or an older brother or an older sibling can knock them down anytime they want to. You know, a kid's happily playing along, da-da-da, and an older brother yanks the Walkman away or steals the coloring book and says, I'm not giving it back, right? So how can you stay joyous when you're being bullied? You can't. I was joyous when I wasn't being bullied. Now I feel miserable because I'm being bullied. So what the teenager does is they say, I want agency, I want control. I can't stop the highs from being knocked down. But what I can do is I can stop the lows from going up. Or at the very least, I can conceal the highs. That's why you want some ice cream? Whatever. They want ice cream, but they don't want to reveal that they want the ice cream because that would be to reveal that they could go up and then be crushed down. They're looking for certainty. And certainty is to be found in depression, in boredom, in fear, in loneliness, in criticism, in cynicism. Easier, right? So it kind of works like this. Wow, things could work out very nice for you. Yeah, they'll just, but they always end up wrong, you know. It'll go bad eventually. Wow, you got this opportunity. So what? It'll all be ruined. It's pointless, right? You can't pull someone up who doesn't want to go up, but you can knock someone down who doesn't want to go down in a dependent relationship, and teenagers are dependent. Now, we are all dependent to some degree, and this is the focus of this video, is a path to remedying depression. Because anyone who has certainty, who has confidence, and can sustain a high level of energy and well-being will do so. But if the need for certainty is strong in a relationship or in a context where we feel out of control, where we feel traumatized, the only certainty we can get is to clinging to something that's painful, that's fearful, that's anxious, that's down, that's depressed. And so that's what teenagers do, and that's what we often do when we feel out of control. And so this then suggests the path forward, which is the path of power, the path of confidence, and the path of certainty. So what I would suggest is this: if you will increase your power, your ability and willingness to act in a way that will increase your life, if you will increase your power, you will increase your confidence, and you will increase with that the certainty of a positive future. Once you are certain of a positive future, your depression will go way down. When you are uncertain and anxious, I hope it doesn't go like this, you will be depressed. Anxiety is a depressive energy. I hope it doesn't work out. Oh gosh, this is terrible. So what do I mean by that? What do I mean by increasing your power? Well, let's talk about power in a variety of forms. If you get another passport that has the ability to visit countries you can't currently go to, that's a form of power. If you get a second residency permit, that's a form of power. It gives you options, gives you more certainty. If you have, 3 bank accounts rather than 1 bank account, your certainty that all of your money won't be taken goes up, right? You've got diversification. If you've got a diversified portfolio, some real estate, some stocks, you own a business, got a job, whatever, well, they're not all going to go up in smoke immediately, so your certainty goes up. If you've got useful skills, I don't have any useful skills. Yes, the path of power is the path of accumulating useful skills, resources, technologies. If you can learn to communicate effectively, the likelihood of you having a good future goes up. You've got more power than if you can communicate ineffectively. If you have more useful knowledge, the likelihood of you being employed in a useful way goes up. If you're learning new skills that relate to your income, the odds of your income going up increase, right? So the path of power is the path of competence. As you become more competent in knowing where things are, knowing how to communicate things, knowing how to access things, knowing what your options are, saving more money, investing in more things, getting a more reliable car or a more reliable form of transportation in some form, each of these increase your power. As your power increases, your confidence increases. As your power and confidence increases, the probability of you having a great future increases. And as your probability of having a great future increases, your certainty about a great future increases. Once you are certain that you have a great future ahead of you, you will not be depressed. Once you are certain. Now, I'm not talking about other people's definition of a great future. Like, oh, you have a great career. No, I'm anxious and I'm depressed in that career. So what we're talking about in certainty is the things that matter to you. If you are certain that you will not be criticized by so-and-so because you've got them out of your life or whatever, right? Then you will feel less depressed. You will feel less anxious, right? If you've got a backup plan, and then another backup plan, such that you're certain that one of them will work, you will be less depressed. So become more competent systematically. Increase your certainty. And this is the line or the path of power.